The House will come to order. The pledge will be led by Wick Spalding, Cherry Creek High School, Greenwood Village, Colorado.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Kohler, please call the roll.
Representatives Arndt. Becker J. Becker K. I'll talk to you later. Representative Casey Becker. Casey Becker.
Becker. Who do you have, Corey? Representative Becker excused.
Brown. Buck. Buckner is excused. Carver. Conti. Corum. Court. I got you. Representative Court. Danielson.
I like how you tiptoeing to me.
Del Grosso. Dorr. Duran. Esgar. Everett. Fields. Foot. Garnett. Representative Garnett.
Representative Garnett.
Oh, there he is. Janal. Hamner. Representative Hamner. Humphrey. Joshi. Kagan. Kaiser. Klingenschmidt. Kraft Tharp. Representative Becker is present. Landgraf.
I haven't heard why she's excused. Maybe she just late. Becker is just late.
She just showed up.
Okay,
Lawrence.
so it's just Becker.
Lebsock. Lee.
No.
Lontine. Lundeen. McCann. Representative McCann. Melton. Mitch Bush. Moreno. Navarro. Neville. Nordberg. Pabon. Representative Pabon.
Representative Pabon excused.
Pedersen. Primavera. Priola. Rankin. Representative Rankin.
He just raised his hand.
There you go. Ransom. Rosenthal. Rupe. Ryden. Sane. Salazar.
I don't know what I can count.
Sias. Singer. Representative Singer.
So we may have
If you can make it to lunch, I can probably cancel.
Representative Singer excused.
Tate. Thurlow. Tyler. Van Winkle. Vigil. Willett.
Thanks.
There it is. Williams. Wilson. Windholtz. Winter. Young. Madam Speaker.
Here. With 62 present, 3 excused, a quorum is present. Representative Lontine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, House members. Madam Speaker, I move that the reading of the Journal of Tuesday, March 3rd, 2015 be dispensed with and that it be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You have heard the motion that the journal be adopted as corrected by the chief clerk. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion passes. Announcements and introductions. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, just wanted to take a moment to let you know that the National Caucus of State Legislators is visiting us today. We have a few representatives. They're over in the Supreme Court chambers, and they have different meetings, but they'll be here all day. Just keep in mind that NCSL is committed to the success of the state legislators. They provide comprehensive research, the latest and greatest best ideas, action on federal issues, and policy experts. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, if I could have your attention, please. It's time for another senior moment. You should have a flyer on your desks talking about the changing demographics in Colorado. We keep hearing about this. We know the silver tsunami is coming, and yet we sort of keep hiding our heads in the sand and somehow hoping somebody's going to fix this. But I do want you to read about the number of older adults in Colorado and how many there are going to be in another 20 years, and keep this top of mind when we're considering a lot of these budget issues and looking into the future. And I do want you to look on the back of the flyer and see where your area agency for the aging is, and do keep in touch with those folks. They're doing wonderful work, and one of the main focuses of their work now is helping older folks stay in their homes as long as possible. So thank you so much for your attention, and be mindful of our senior citizens, of whom some of us already are. Thank you.
Representative Quorum.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I had requested to be excused on Thursday, and you expressed your disappointment that I would not be here. So rather than disappoint you, I will be here on Thursday.
I am so glad, Representative Quorum. Thank you. Representative Mitch Bush and Representative Kraft-Tharp. Sorry, and Representative Kaiser.
Nice to meet you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. Representative Kaiser and I would like to welcome today the youth from the Youth Leadership Jefferson County, emerging leaders from Jefferson County.
Welcome, everybody. They're on the side benches, and members, if you would take a quick minute out of your day here today, go talk to them, tell them where you are from, and definitely say hi, and please answer any questions they have. This is the future here, future leaders of Colorado, and I wanted to say particular welcome to Carter Mateer, who is here from Devlin High School.
Did they introduce somebody they shouldn't have? Oh, that's okay. Yeah, are there Representative Brown?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And this morning we had Ag Council met downstairs, and they meet every 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we will have Ag Day here, and there will be lots of good food down in the foyer on the first floor. But this morning on the floor with us, we have the president of the Egg Producers Association here, in Colorado, and you might not know there are 1 billion eggs that are produced here in Colorado annually, over 1 million hens. 4 million hens. Sorry about that. Glad to have you.
Are there further announcements and introductions? Seeing none, the next order of business is third reading, final passage. Is there a motion to lay over House Bill 1173? Please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move House Bill 1173 be laid over to Friday.
The motion is to lay over House Bill 1173 until Friday. Seeing no objection, so ordered. The next order of business is consideration of Senate amendments to House bills. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1029.
House Bill 1029 by Representatives Buck and Janal, all senators Gonzalez and Martinez Humanic, concerning coverage under a health benefit plan for healthcare services delivered through telehealth in any area of the state.
Representative Janal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House concur with the Senate amendment to House Bill 1029. What it does is it clarifies that a person can opt out of telehealth as well as an MD can opt out as well.
The question before the House is to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1029. Further discussion, Representative Buck.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And again, my colleagues, this is a Senate amendment to do the following, which clarifies that telehealth is not required. Therefore, this is not a mandate. When a covered person chooses not to receive care through telehealth. So I ask an aye on this amendment. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on concurrence for House Bill 1029? Seeing none, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote on concurrence. Representative Garnett. Representative Garnett. Close the machine. With 64 ayes, no noes, and 1 excuse, the motion to concur is passed. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1029 as amended.
The question before the House is the repassage of House Bill 1029 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Nordberg and Representative Lee. Close the machine with 63 ayes and 1 no and 1 excused. House Bill 1029 is repassed as amended. Can we do co-sponsors on this? Co-sponsors. Close the machine. House Bill 10, Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1031.
House Bill 1031 by Representative Winholtz, also Senator Todd, concerning a ban on powdered alcohol.
Representative Winholtz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On House Bill 1031, I concur with the amendments sent from the Senate.
Is that a motion?
I move to confer.
Is that a motion? Representative Winholtz, I didn't hear. Okay.
Yes, please.
The motion is to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1031. Representative Winholtz, would you like to explain why we are concurring with the lower body on this? please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Introduced on 1/7/2015, the bans powdered alcohol until it was approved by the FDA and the state statute. A regulatory framework is in place. The Senate amendments do the following: it eliminates the temporary ban on powdered alcohol, which has the effect of legalizing the substance once approved by the TTB, which is the Tobacco and Tax Bureau. The amendments also strengthen the rulemaking language in the bill and adds sections concerning how it should be taxed.
Is there further discussion on concurrence on House Bill 1031 other than Seeing none, the question before us is there further discussion? Representative Kraft Tharp.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I'm confused. The Senate amendment eliminated the temporary ban. So does that mean that there's not a ban on it, or does that mean that there is a permanent ban on it?
Representative Winholtz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, there is not a ban on it.
Representative Kraft Tharp.
Thank you. So I am further confused because the title of this bill is ban the use of the sale or possession of powdered alcohol. So this bill is saying we're not going to ban this when the title is to ban it. So what the Senate amendment does is say that it's in effect. Thank you, Representative Priola. Okay,
Representative
I'm further
Winholtz.
confused.
Basically, thank you, Madam Chair.
Please go ahead.
Oh, Madam Speaker, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Please proceed.
The initial title was put out as a ban, which was we were asking for a temporary a period of time in order to that it would not go on the market until the description and the labeling and everything that was done. When it went to the Senate, it asked that this ban or this break and time be lifted, and that's basically is what happened.
Is there further discussion on concurrence on House Bill 1031? Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I guess I may not have heard everything that was said here, but it almost sounds like if we're not going to ban it, then why have a bill at all?
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, this bill, if you remember back, all the discussions we had on this bill when it was actually in the House, several of you actually heard it in some of the committees that were there. This bill never was a permanent ban on powdered alcohol, never was a permanent ban. Even though the title had the word ban in it, it was never a permanent ban. The premise behind the bill was if it passes in Washington, D.C., and it becomes a product that is legal to be sold out there on the market, the Department of Revenue, the liquor enforcement, cannot, under current rules, regulate it because it is a powdered alcohol, and liquor enforcement enforces regulations on liquid alcohol. So that would mean that if it becomes legal at the federal level, theoretically, 7-Eleven could sell this to 15-year-olds out there. And what the bill did was put a temporary ban, a timeout on the bill to say when it passes at the federal level, we are going to have a temporary ban at the state level until we can figure out how this is going to regulate it, because the Department of Liquor Enforcement said we cannot regulate this as it is because it is a powder. Now, what the Senate did is the Senate put an amendment on that basically loosened the language behind ban and put more authority into the regulatory agency to say as soon as it gets brought into law at the federal level, there will be more teeth behind the regulatory agency to be able to regulate this. So still basically does exactly the same thing. It kind of loosens the language on a ban because some people were concerned that we were actually trying to ban this forever and it was never going to be sold to the public. That was never the intention of the bill. The intention of the bill was if it becomes legal at the federal level, we don't want 15-year-olds to be able to buy this at 7-Eleven. We want it to be regulated just like alcohol, but liquor enforcement said we cannot regulate it like alcohol because it is a powder and we can only regulate liquid alcohol. So the Senate just made that wording more clear to bring up that is what they were trying to do.
Is there further discussion on concurrence on House Bill 1031? Representative Conti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'm confused. If it has an alcohol content, why can it not be regulated as alcohol currently?
Is there an answer to that question? Representative, Mr. Minority Leader.
Second time, I guess.
It is, your second time. Reminding everybody that these are third reading rules, so you can speak twice for a total of 10 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Conti, liquor enforcement regulates liquid alcohol. This is a powder. This is not liquid alcohol. It is a powder. Therefore, liquor enforcement said we cannot regulate it the same way. We do not have a regulatory structure to regulate it in the same way as liquid alcohol. Thus, the premise of the bill to say if it becomes legal at the federal level, it comes here, we will promulgate rules so we can regulate it similar to alcohol, and there again, we won't be selling it to 15-year-olds at a 7-Eleven or some other convenience store. So to answer Representative Conti's question again, this is a powder, not a liquid, therefore they cannot regulate it.
And members, I would remind you that the question before us here is concurrent, so the discussion relates to the changes that the Senate made and whether you choose to concur or not. So further discussion? Representative Winholtz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Basically, I just want to read if the federal and alcohol and tobacco tax and trade bureau approves the purchase and sale and provision or manufacturing of the powder and alcohol in the United States, the state licensing authority shall adopt the rules in establishing a mechanism for regulating and manufacturing. This basically amendment conforms with the federal.
Is there further discussion on concurrence on House Bill 1031? Seeing none, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ransom. Close the machine with 45 ayes, 19 noes, and 1 excused. The motion to concur is passed. Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1031 as amended.
The motion is for repassage of House Bill 1031 as amended. Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I ask for a no vote on repassage of this bill. We heard this bill here on the floor when it left the House. This was talked about extensively in terms of this being a dangerous product, that there were many concerns that this product should not be on the market. To see this come back from the lower body into this chamber as now a regulatory bill, one I think goes against the title of the bill, it goes against the spirit of the legislation, and so I ask for an aye vote or a no vote on repassage.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We heard this in State Affairs as well as here on the House floor, and I want to point out what this bill was intended to do. It's very specifically stated on page 2, and it's lines 15 through 18. And basically what this bill was about is that it prohibited a person, saying a person shall not offer for use, purchase, offer to purchase, sell, offer to sell, transfer, offer to transfer, possess or manufacture powdered alcohol. That language is missing from the Senate's amendments. So Representative Melton is right. This is no longer an issue of protecting public safety. This is now an issue of taxation. If the federal government decides that powdered alcohol is permissible. The first bill was the right bill because it prohibited people from being able to pass on to another person to possess, to sell, or whatever, powdered alcohol. This bill was always billed as a public safety issue. And now what the Senate has done is the Senate said, well, it's not really a matter of public safety anymore. Now this is about, well, let's tax it if the federal government decides that it's legal. What the Senate has sent us is a bill of goods. Representative Winholtz, you had the right bill. And I would ask members that you vote down repassage of House Bill 1031.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1031? Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We heard this in State Affairs. The people that supported the all-out ban were Greer Bailey came and testified from the alcohol retail company. The owner of the Fresh Fish Company wanted a ban. They didn't want this stuff being brought into their restaurant. The Sheriff's Association, the Colorado Restaurant Association, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and the Colorado Bar Owners Association. So those are the people that wanted the all-out ban. They wanted that language in there that Representative Salazar was talking about.
Further discussion on House Bill? Representative Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as one of our representatives said earlier, she's really confused, and so am I. If you vote against this bill, then there's no regulation. Where's the public safety in that? Now, again, if the question is, does the amendment fit under the title? It does. If you read on this page, starting on page 2, if the Federal Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau approves the purchase, if. So we are basically following the federal law on this, and then we can regulate this, and this is what it says on page 3. So members, again, the question's been answered. Yes, it does fit under the title, but the second question remains, if you vote against this bill, you're voting against public safety. So I would urge a yes vote today.
Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and that's simply not the case. If you vote for this bill today in this form, this substance, powdered alcohol, will proliferate in the state of Colorado. There is no doubt about that. So let's not give the people of Colorado any reassurance that we're doing something with this bill other than allowing the proliferation of powdered alcohol in Colorado. This substance is either good or bad today. It's not good or bad when suddenly the federal government decides that it's good or bad. We have to make that decision today. We have to be leaders on this issue. This is a public safety issue, but this is not a public safety answer. This simply allows, voting yes for this bill allows the proliferation of powdered alcohol in Colorado today.
Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I urge a yes vote. Certainly this fits underneath the very broad bill title that we have before us. And the fact is that this substance should be regulated to protect children, and that is what this bill does. And we discussed this in committee as the amendment in State Affairs, and it was voted down, I believe, on a party line vote. So this isn't some brand new issue that just came up in the Senate, and it's a good amendment. Please vote yes.
Further discussion, Representative Kagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have strong feelings on the policy in this bill, but I do have strong feelings about the Constitution of the state of Colorado. And the Constitution of the State of Colorado, Article 5, Section 21, says that if any subject shall be embraced in any act which shall not be expressed in the title, such act shall be void. Now, I submit to you, members, that if this bill passes in this form, it will be argued by opponents of this measure that the subject is not expressed in the title, because the title is clear. It is calling for a ban. The subject of this legislation does not fit within that, and therefore it is void according to Article 5, Section 21. So I don't know whether it's a good bill or a bad bill, but I do know that it is liable to be charged as an unconstitutional bill. And I think we are sworn to uphold and protect the Constitution of the state of Colorado. By passing this bill in this form, we are failing in our duty.
Further discussion, Representative Klingenschmidt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I urge a yes vote on the amended version. I was a no vote on the original House version because it seemed like the original House version was, in fact, a very strict ban and a very strict prohibition, and maybe even a return to the days of prohibition. I'm sure nobody wants that. When I think of my own experience as an ordained minister, of course I'm personally against drunkenness, but I also remember that Jesus changed water into wine. So we should not return to an outright prohibition. I think the Senate version is a common sense way of regulating this and treating it like we treat liquid alcohol. So I urge an aye vote on the amended version.
Representative Everett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I'd like to address Representative Kagan's bill title argument. It says, concerning a ban on powdered alcohol. Concerning. So right now, this is not authorized under federal law, and this bill specifically states that until it's authorized under federal law, then it will be regulated. So it's still under the bill title. Also, I want to address my colleagues on the left, my left, maybe politically on the left. There is not a single Democrat in the Senate, and I'm not a big fan of Senate Democrats, but there's not a single one of your colleagues on the Senate side that cast a no vote on this bill. It was unanimous amongst the Democrats. In fact, it was the Republicans that voted no on this. 7 Republicans voted no. And I'm looking forward to all of you on that side voting with Vicky Marble on this bill. Thank you.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And it's always interesting when we debate issues in the House and in the Senate where these conversations goes, and that's what's so great about this process is different perspectives from different parties and even different chambers at times. And what is most interesting to me about this particular bill is that if we think on the history of this bill since it was introduced, it was a bill that was introduced when it was assigned to committee that some question why it was going there, because this bill was about public safety. It was about protecting our kids. It was about making sure that we're doing what is right for the people of Colorado. And despite the bill being sent to a committee that some question, the bill came out of committee in very, very good form to support the people of this state, to protect the public, and to protect children. And as that bill ran through this body into the House and went to the Senate made some changes, which seemed to appear as taking away from the very values that the proponents of this bill set out at the beginning of session that this bill was all about. And so regardless of which chamber we're in, or regardless of Republican or Democrat, or regardless of where Senator Marble is on the issue, at the end of the day, we have to be together to do what is right for all. And if what was true at the beginning of session is still true today, I ask you to vote against this motion to repass this bill. Thank you.
Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to clarify how the vote was out of committee. It wasn't a partisan vote. It passed 9-2 out of State Veterans and Military Affairs.
Representative Corum.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I support what the Senate has done, and I think it's a reason for safety. You know, we're putting it back to say when the feds approve this, you know, regulatory will take over. I think if we don't do this, I think there's going to be some serious unintended consequences. You know, you go back to the days of Prohibition. You couldn't buy alcohol at all. Yet the alcohol market flourished. People got rich making alcohol. Go back just in the recent past. Marijuana was illegal to use in the state of Colorado. Did anybody in the state of Colorado use marijuana? Absolutely. Did we pass legislation to regulate it? Yes, we did. So I think this is a matter of safety. If we put this in place, we're going to protect it, the children. If we don't, there's going to be a black market on powdered alcohol, I assure you, and every 14 or 15-year-old in the country is going to find a place to find powdered alcohol as they did some of those marijuana. So I think this is common sense. Let's don't let politics get in the way of common sense.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This isn't politics. The bill was brought by a Republican House sponsor in a form that said very specifically what the prohibitions were the prohibitions in the first bill. As I read earlier, it prohibited a person, they shall not use, offer for use, purchase, offer to purchase, sell, offer to sell, transfer, offer to transfer, possess, or manufacture powdered alcohol. The Republican sponsor also had a separate section in here. That separate section said the section is repealed if the Federal Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau approves the use, purchase, sale, possession, or manufacturing of powdered alcohol in the United States, and the state licensing authority establishes and implements a mechanism for regulating the manufacture, purchase, sale, possession, and use of powdered alcohol. So it had the two aspects of it. Number one was public safety. Let's protect the public. Let's make sure that people aren't transferring it to one another, selling it or possessing it to one another. And if it's repealed by the federal government, then the state can tax it. What the Senate amendment does is it takes away altogether the possession and the use and the sale. You're saying that this is a matter of public safety, the Senate amendment. It is contrary to public safety. It took the public safety language out of the bill. No one can stand up here with a straight face and say this is about public safety now. To rely on the federal government, I'm a little astonished that people are saying that, well, let's just rely on the federal government for this. This is our state. We should be able to regulate alcohol products in our state, and we should be able to prohibit those alcohol products that we deem should be prohibited, which is what Representative Winholtz was looking for. I ask for a no vote on House Bill 1031.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I may not be straight, but I'll say with a straight face that I concur with the Senate amendment, and I'm going to agree with Senator Marble here, the senators, on this. You know, I originally did vote for this bill to ban it, and, you know, if we don't pass this bill, then it won't be regulated, which doesn't make sense to me. If the product is coming, we might as well at least regulate it. And I'm glad to see that my friends on this side are interested in regulation. So, you know, I'm not going to stop them from acting in that way. But I think it is important, if we're not going to ban it, at least to regulate it. So I urge a yes vote.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've heard several things here, and so I wanted to get a chance to kind of refute a couple of those. And I agree with Representative Duran, the Majority Leader, that it is always interesting how some of the conversations we have down here and some of the twists and turns and a lot of the stuff that people say down here at the mic. And, you know, if I say that somebody didn't tell the whole story, I'm accused of saying that they're lying. But I would think, again, we're back to the impasse again, that we're not hearing the full story. I tend to agree with Representative Salazar when he says it's not about politics, it's about public safety. And you're absolutely right, this is about public safety. And how you can say that if we pass the bill in the form it is with the Senate amendments would have nothing to do with public safety. If you look at what the Senate did, they put powdered alcohol into the definition in Statute 1247-103, which deals with regulation of alcohol beverages. And if you were listening to me earlier on why we should pass the Senate amendments, I said, look, Liquor Enforcement Division cannot regulate this now because it is a liquid alcohol and they cannot regulate something that is powdered alcohol. So if you look at the first section of the Senate amendments that they put on there, it adds powdered alcohol into the section where it has spirituous liquors. So this puts it in there where they actually can. But the key thing, when we keep saying that this is not about public safety, if you look at Section 2, if the Federal Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau approves the purchase, sale, possession, or manufacture of powdered alcohol in the United States, so currently it is not a legal product to be sold or manufactured here in the United States, but this amendment says the licensing authority shall. That's the key word. The licensing authority shall adopt rules.
Mr. Minority Leader, I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to get a little more order here, so. Please listen to the person who's speaking, and please proceed, Mr. Minority Leader.
I know it's tough to look at the guy that's got the face for radio and listen to him, but it's... But to go back where we're at here, it explicitly says the licensing authority shall adopt rules establishing a mechanism to regulate the manufacture, purchase, sale, possession, and use of powdered alcohol. So it's clearly they do not right now have the authority to regulate it. If this bill does not pass and it becomes legal at the federal level, it can be sold on the open market with no regulation. Any business owner can sell this to any person that they want to, regardless of age. So if you vote no on this bill, you will be allowing this product to be sold to underage minors. You will, because there is no regulatory structure in place now to stop that from happening. Whether you wanted an outright ban or not, that bill does not do an outright permanent ban anymore, but it does set up to say the state of Colorado shall, if this becomes legal at the federal level, adopt rules to regulate this product. You will be voting no to say that the state of Colorado shall regulate. You can spin it any way you want, but that is 100% what you are doing if you vote no on this bill. So if a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old gets a hold of this product and buys it legally because you voted no, and then overdoses and dies, you can say, look, hey, I didn't want regulation and I voted for no regulation. That is what you are voting for. So just to be perfectly clear, you're right, Representative Salazar. I don't agree this is about politics. This is about public safety. Yes or no, do you want public safety? Yes or no, do you want underage children accessing this product? That is the question you need to answer when you're voting yes or no on this bill.
No, Madam Majority Leader? Oh, okay, Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I just want to remind folks that this bill did come to the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. It received a full, complete, exhaustive hearing. It passed out 9-2. We thought it was a fine bill leaving our committee, and I would say the majority of our committee still believes this. To me, I don't know how many of you bake, but you know, when you try to make a pie and you make the pie crust and you work it too much, it just gets really awful and you kind of have to start over. And maybe we need to start rebaking this pie. That would be my suggestion. Otherwise, we must vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, again, I renew my request for a no vote on this bill. I find it interesting to hear here in the well that kids are going to get their hands on this, whether or not we pass this or not. And I don't think that as a legislature, we should just throw our hands up and say, you're right, kids are going to get their hands on it. So what's the point of trying to ban it or keep it out of their hands? Let's regulate it. Let's make sure we can find a tax structure for it. That's not the way we do things down here. That's not a precedent I want to set today down here. So I ask you to vote no on this bill. The original bill had language to deal with if the federal government were to begin to regulate it. And I think that we need to go back to the original bill. Just because we don't pass this today does not mean that we don't have time to continue to work on it. Each one of you gets one of these calendars on your desk that currently says that today is the 57th day and that it's 63 days left. So we got time to continue to work on this issue. Let's do this right. Let's not just pass this for the sake of passing something and worried about whether or not the kids are gonna get their hands on it. Let's make sure we put public safety first. I ask for a no vote.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There is a lot of discussion on this issue, and I would agree with Representative Melton. We need a little bit more time. And so it is a procedural motion. I move to lay over House Bill 1031 until Friday, March 6th.
The motion of the Majority Leader is to lay over House Bill 1031 until Friday, March 6th.
I know there's no debate.
That's right. Well, you can lay over a bill when you're in the middle of discussion. You've done it before.
Debate, but we can object.
There's a motion on the floor. Substitute motion to lay over? I thought, okay. Madam Majority Leader, would you put that in the form of a substitute motion, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I move a substitute motion to lay over House Bill 1031 until Friday, March 6th.
So the motion is to lay over House Bill 1031 until Friday, March 6th. Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would object to that motion.
So we will have to have a roll call vote. Is there further discussion? Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote.
Thank you.
That's my job.
Close the machine. With 33 ayes, 31 noes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1031 is laid over until Friday. So, members, the next order of business is consideration of adherence. Oh, we have, that's right. Next, Mr. Tyler, please read the title of House Bill 1059.
House Bill 1059 by Representative Garnett, all Senator Guzman, concerning the Board of Directors of the Denver Health and Hospital Authority.
Representative Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1059.
The motion is to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1059. Members, you're going down on the job here. Please proceed, Representative Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate included some language to making sure that when removing a board member from Denver Health, that the decision shall be based on the board's determination that the member has failed to perform his or her duties and has engaged in detrimental conduct. I believe this is good language that strengthens the bill.
Is there further discussion, Mr. Minority Leader?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I'm concerned because this amendment over from the Senate seems like it might be kind of vague.
Is that something new, Representative?
It's not. But this amendment says that the board's determination that the member shall be removed if they have done something that is detrimental or their conduct was detrimental. And I was just wondering if Representative Garnett could maybe explain what those cases might actually be, just to make sure that we're not putting something that's super vague into statute.
Further discussion, Representative Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Minority Leader Del Grosso, for bringing this forward. I think this language just puts into protections as we're changing the way that the board members can be removed, that nobody is being removed for any other purpose other than detrimental conduct to the hospital authority.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1059 concurrence? See none, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representative Tate. Representative Tate. Close the machine with 51 ayes, 13 noes, and 1 excused. House Bill 1059 is concurred with. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is a pleasure to serve with you. I move
And
for
also with you.
I move for the repassage of House Bill 1059 as amended.
The motion is for repassage of House Bill 1059 as amended. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Lee. Close the machine with 45 ayes, 19 noes, and 1 excused. House Bill 1059 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Next order of business is consideration of adherence. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 159.
Senate Bill 159 by Senator Lambert, also Representative Hamner, concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Public Safety.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House recede from its position on Senate Bill 159.
The motion is to recede from our position and to accept the Senate position of Senate Bill 159. Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker and colleagues, I hope you'll give me just a minute to provide a little bit of history that brought us to where we are today, and having me in front of you making the very first motion of this kind in front of this body. Senate Bill 159 is the supplemental request from the Department of Public Safety, and it came to the Joint Budget Committee from the department. Part of the request from the department was a request to expedite the background checks for concealed carry, and this aspect of the request by the department was not approved by the Joint Budget Committee. It actually died on a 3-3 vote. The bill then went to the Senate without this language included in the bill, and it was approved in its form by the Senate. When the bill came over to the Senate, from the Senate to the House, we adopted an amendment to include the expedited background checks for concealed carry. As you know, when one body amends a bill, it goes back to the other body. So our amended bill, Senate Bill 159, as amended by the House, went back to the Senate. And the Senate action, the Senate adhered to their original version. In other words, they approved their version of Senate Bill 159 minus the amendment, and actually made the decision to not go to conference committee. So that was the action that they took. The very last step in this process is here in front of us today. So there are really two actions that we can take. One is to adhere to our position of Senate Bill 159 as amended with the amendment to expedite the background checks for concealed carry, in which case we're at a stalemate because we're at the end of the process, and if I were to recommend that action, this bill would die. So that leads to the decision and the recommendation to recede from our position and accept the Senate version. So what's really at stake here, and what do we stand to lose if we do not pass this bill today, if we don't accept this motion to recede? I will admit that, yes, we're disappointed that we had hoped to support the department's request to process background checks more efficiently. But at the same time, we should not be willing to put the rest of the bill's intent in jeopardy. To remind you of what else is in Senate Bill 159, there is a supplemental request from the department about supporting toxicology labs, training for peace officers, and processing untested rape kits. These actions are critical in supporting our peace officers in solving crimes, bringing perpetrators to justice, and bringing timely closure for victims. I ask for your support of the motion.
Further discussion, Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, Representative Hamner, I also support the motion to recede and not adhere. And Representative Hamner kind of went over some points, but I would like to take an opportunity as well to let people know again what we're voting on. And if you remember back to, I think it was like 13 days ago when this actually came out of the House and went over to the Senate, there was a lot of conversations and discussion going on regarding all different kinds of supplementals. And there was a lot of different supplementals flying through, and they all seemed kind of the same, but Senate Bill 159 was a little bit different. Senate Bill 159 was the public safety supplemental, as Representative Hamner just talked about. And if most of us have certainly read and gone through the appropriation and looked at what's happening in this department, we still have to remember what this supplemental actually does. And Representative Hamner did kind of a brief overview, but I want to dive in again what Senate Bill 159 does. First, it might seem like an innocuous transfer, like this transfer is a normal transfer from the department to capital construction, but you need to understand where this construction came from. Some of you weren't here, but you will probably remember this, but Senate Bill 13, 2010 was a bill that said we must act. It had an act that said we must act diligently to look at and examine those victims of sexual assault and have their DNA samples that we took to catch their perpetrator and put them in line in the forensic lab. We had to recognize backlog of these DNA rape kits had not been tested, and so we decided to pass House Bill 13, 2010 to expedite this process. We didn't want victims to wait any longer to get justice. And what this transfer does in this supplemental is it helps to build that lab in Arvada just to do this. This helps to expedite justice in a serious way because these victims deserve justice. The second part of this supplemental is to give, as Representative Hamner talked about, the state toxicology lab funding. What does the state toxicology lab do? The state toxicology lab takes blood alcohol content samples. Where do these samples come from? From those that have been accused of driving while drinking, DUI, DWAI. These samples give those who are victims of these drinking and driving episodes the right to bring their perpetrator to justice. That's what this transfer does. So when we fund the toxicology lab, we make sure we test these blood samples expeditiously so that we can bring these folks to justice. And finally, this bill gives funding to the POST program. POST is the Peace Officer Safety Training. They specialize in training. Again, listen to this. This is important. This goes to train officers in cold case homicides and strategies and best practices and works with the National Missing Unidentified Person System Training and Ambler Alert so we can find those missing children. That's what this bill does. This is an extremely important supplemental. And I dare say, and I echo what the Representative Pabon said, the most important supplemental that we could have passed that day, and I can probably say of today as well. So a no vote on this motion would be to vote to kill this bill, this supplemental. This means that those rape victims who deserve to have their rape kits tested will go without justice. For those who vote no on this motion, those folks who have decided to drink and drive and get behind the wheel and get caught will not have their blood samples tested expeditiously and be brought to justice. And finally, for those that vote no on this motion, you are voting no to not train officers to solve cold case homicides and to help find our missing children in the state. I ask that you vote yes on behalf of the people of Colorado to protect our public safety, to protect our welfare. And because, as Representative Pavone told us the other day, it is our job in this chamber. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I think it's been well said what we're voting on here, but just in case there's any confusion, I certainly know I was confused about supplementals when I first heard about them a couple of years ago. Supplementals are a little strange, and it's because they cover a whole department, and often, you know, the subjects are a little bit, it's a little bit confusing to see a bill that has so many different funding sources for different things. So the amendment no longer exists. We're not even discussing that amendment that was somewhat controversial. What we're doing here is supporting these things that you've heard discussed, which I think we all strongly support. So I urge a yes vote on the motion.
Further discussion, Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, colleagues, for listening so respectfully through this conversation. Thank you, Mr. Minority Leader, Representative Rankin. Colleagues, I urge a yes vote on this motion. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is that the House recede from its position on Senate Bill 159. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Quorum. I know how you feel, Representative Quorum. Please close the machine. With 64 ayes, no noes, and 1 excuse, the House recedes to the Senate position on Senate Bill 159. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 159 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of Senate Bill 159, not as amended, yeah. Not as amended. Yeah. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 64 ayes, no noes, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 159 is repassed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. We're now to announcements and introductions. The Speaker has one announcement. The Senate did not concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 161. They established a conference committee, be appointed, and the House conferees for that conference committee are Millie Hamner, Representative Dave Young, and Representative Bob Rankin, and Representative Millie Hamner. Further announcements, Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, members of the Ag Committee, listen up. There will be no Ag Committee today upon adjournment. And I have another announcement to remind you that I'd like to extend an invitation to all of you to attend the Colorado Foundation for Water Education, and it's going to be in 356. Our speaker will be Justice Gregory Hobbs, James Secklin, and Diane Hopi, and lunch will be provided for legislators. So please join us at 356 at noon. Thank you.
Representative Tate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I want to welcome the AP government class from Grandview High School. They will be spending time here in the Capitol, learning about our legislative process and the state government as a whole. So please welcome AP government from Grandview High School in my district. Thank you.
Representative Lebsack.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The local government committee, Madam Speaker, and the House has been so efficient, we do not have a meeting today or tomorrow.
I congratulate you, Representative Lebsack. Representative Conti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to welcome to our gallery Peabody Elementary under the teacher Melanie Burke. Thank you so much for visiting today, and hope you enjoy your stay at the People's House.
Further announcements and introductions. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I just wanted to remind everybody of just a couple of things procedurally. One is that any time that you do a tribute on the House floor, make sure that you're filling out the paperwork to do the tribute. Our staff and also Marilyn has that. And also for absences, I just want to remind people that you definitely have to fill out the paperwork and that we follow the rules. With that, seeing no further announcements. Oh, excuse me, just one moment.
You need to make an announcement on your conference committee. You can. We've appointed it already. Oh, she needs a vote? Okay, okay. We can go ahead and have Representative Winter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. I move that the first conference committee on Senate Bill 85 be granted permission to go beyond the scope of the differences between the two houses.
The motion is for the conference committee to go beyond the scope on House Bill, what is it, Faith?
Senate Bill 85.
Senate Bill 85. Seeing no discussion, seeing no objection, so ordered. Pardon me? What are we doing? Oh, okay. Okay, we're going to take a vote on this. So, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. God bless America. Oh, okay. Okay, very good. Representative Carver. Close the machine. With 57 ayes, 7 noes, and 1 excused, the motion is passed to go beyond the scope in Senate Bill 85. Further announcements and introductions. Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, you do not have to come back. We're going to try and close the desk a little bit earlier today. So I move that the House stand in recess until 11 o'clock later today.
The motion is to stand in recess until later today. Seeing no objection, so ordered.